guys, welcome back to The Dive. This is where we talk about real life issues where the youth go through and yet not enough emphasis is made on such topics. So today we are going to talk about a very exciting topic. We are going to be talking about mental health. And I know some of us or most of us have heard mental health, but we don't really consider it to be so serious in Africa. We don't really regard it that much because we all have the we move mentality. So today we are going to be delving very deep into this topic, and I have some very lovely people who are going to be helping me dissect it, and I'm just going to allow them to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Fola.
Hi. So my name is Fola. What else about me? I am very passionate about advocating for the mental health of young people in Nigeria and by extension in Africa, and even young people across every country of the world. I'm currently a PhD candidate, and my research touches on how do we educate and give enough awareness to the population of the global south about mental health and mental illnesses. So I am not necessarily a mental health practitioner. I'm just an advocate who is passionate about talking about this topic.
Yeah. That's so good. We are so happy to have you. Thank you very much for coming. And we are going to move on to Ayo. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ayo. I just finished my master's, and so I'm about to start working. Yeah, so I'm also passionate about mental health because when I moved here, I went through some things and I was very confused as to what was going on because it's not talked about a lot back home, and it just made me understand more about it as I was going through it. So yeah.
Thank you very much for coming. I'm so excited because I also went through certain things, but I didn't even know it was called mental health. I just thought it's so I'm excited for us to get into this. So I'm going to start. The first question is, what is mental health and why is it important? Because for people like me, like I said, even when I was going through something, I didn't even know, this is mental, this is something related to mental health. You need to, I didn't even know what to do. So what exactly is mental health and why is it important? Anyone can start.
Do you want to start us out? So I always like to give this caveat every time I have the opportunity to talk about mental health or mental illnesses. The caveat is this: first, whatever you be hearing from us right now does not replace diagnosis, does not replace treatment. We are just people who have consistently tried, and we are still going to continue to educate ourselves, and we've had lived experience. So please do not replace any of our conversations as diagnosis, treatment.
Yeah.
So Nadia, to your question, what is mental health? What is mental health? I will start with saying what I think mental illnesses are. Then what is mental health? I think mental illnesses generally are things that literally, very layman, attacks our mind. So the way we have physical ailments that we can see, the somatic feelings, mental illnesses go straight into attacking the mind, the brain. So we say the sickness of the mind and the brain, basically. And one of the things I also argue is that mental health is not necessarily the opposite of mental illness, right? Mental health is a state where you are, where it's the state of your well-being, of your mind, of your socially and all of that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that mental illness is not present. It just means that you're in a space where you have the capacity to be able to cope with any form of mental illness that one is,
going through. Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh wow, that's deep. That's deep. Yeah. I like that. And I think when you were talking, I was just relating it to physical, physical illness, right? I'm physically healthy, but I think it means that when I get a cough or something, the fact that I know to take this kind of medicine is the state of being physically healthy, right? So the fact that you know what to do, how to do it, that's beautiful. So anything you want to add? What's mental health and why is it important?
Just what both of you said, if I'm having a headache. Physically, I know that, okay, I'm having a headache. But if it's not something that I talked about, I just think that, okay, maybe I don't know if this is normal, what is going on. And so I don't know how to take care of it. So I think that's why I would say mental health is important, because you first need to understand what's going on and know, okay, this is what is going on, and then this is how I can take care of it to be the best version of myself, mentally speaking.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. In Africa, this is not really a huge topic as it is here in the US. Why do you think that is? That's the first question. Like, why do you think it is not as emphasized in Africa? Is it that we as Africans don't go through these things, or we just refuse to acknowledge the fact that it exists?
I think one of the reasons is we attribute a lot of like mental illnesses to like witchcraft or spiritual, which sometimes is true, but anytime someone is like maybe depressed or something, we just assume, oh, is this person's village people that are doing them? And it's not necessarily so, but because of that, people are ashamed to seek help or speak about what's going on, and that's why there's not much light shone on that. Yeah, you can.
So one of the things I've done in the past 2 years is delve into a lot of literature and also have conversation. So I might be saying some things I'll be like, So I don't think that the secrecy to mental illness is an African society thing alone. Up until not so long, maybe about 2-3 decades ago, the conversation even here in the West, particularly in America, was different. Even in Europe was different. So do we have our own peculiar issues as Africans that impact how we talk about this invincible illness? Yes. And like Kanyo has mentioned, a lot of things are attributed to spiritual. It has to be that one person from father's house, from your village people, and we also are such resilient people. We go through the most. So before people literally break down,
it has to take like a lot.
Yeah. So I think that we're also one who are not very quick to put words to how we feel. We don't have the words to describe how we feel, and then we just brush it off. And then if you come out to express any form of weakness, you are not considered strong, acceptable in that society. So I think that definitely those are some of the reasons, more cultural reasons why a lot of African societies are not, we don't take it seriously.
So then, is that a pro or a con? Because it's good to be resilient, it's good to be focused, it's good to be driven. But doesn't that accumulate? The fact that you are not acknowledging the fact that certain things are happening, and it's like you don't even pause to acknowledge the emotions, and then you get to a certain stage of your life, you realize it has become your personality. You don't even realize when you are depressed because it is now a part of you. You just keep pushing, keep moving. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Is this to me? I would say that there is no way, in any way, shape, form, society where it's a good thing. And I don't have the numbers now. I wish I could check, but the amount of money that we lose globally to the amount of money we lose when it comes to productivity because of mental illness is enormous. I don't know if we're allowed to say stories.
Oh, you can.
So just yesterday, I was on phone with one of my very good friends, and then she was telling me about a story of somebody who, this woman, she went through the most from depression. She had psychosis because her husband had refused her from practicing her profession.
Wow.
So eventually, she couldn't work. The family, she lost her family because by the time she went from mood disorder to psychosis, that gotten to an advanced stage, she wasn't useful for herself. She wasn't useful for her immediate family, even though she had for years pushed through. So if it was nipped in the bud where it was depression and did not advance into something intense, things would have been different. So that resilience, in the long run, it's not helpful. Even if it does not deteriorate into psychosis, we are passing trauma to the next generation.
Yeah.
So it's in no way, shape, or form that resilience is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but resilience is also seeking out for treatment, getting help. So positive resilience is helpful, but it is not. Let's forget about it. We can push through. We're Africans. We are built for things like this, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that in any shape or form it has its positive.
I actually never thought of like the economical factor of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And with regards to what you said, I wanted to ask, like, so what do you think we can do to change this whole silence? This whole, if you talk, like it's a taboo to express your weakness. What do you think we can do to change how we approach this as a culture or as a society?
I would just say I think the beginning part is just to like shine the lights on like this is what is happening. Because if people don't know this is a problem, they don't even know where to go from there. So like make people understand that this is actually a problem. I think that's the very beginning. Yeah, I think social media is doing a good job especially with the young adults and the youth. But with the older generation, I think that's going to be more like grassroots, like going into in
Because
person.
I think it might be difficult to change the face, especially with our older generation. Like to get them to understand,
hard.
like you are depressed. Like what is depression? Like how can you tell me?
I need to find this video on social media. So just as we're about to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like telling your mom, I don't feel it. I just don't feel like
your
going to
phone.
school. Like, what do you mean? I pay school fees. So what do you mean you don't feel like going to school? Like,
I think that will take a little more work for that.
yeah.
Okay, I think I found the video.
You said that you are depressed. Yeah. There's nothing somebody will not hear. You came out again with English. When there has been problem, now you are telling me that you give the problem a name. Me, I'm not depressed. So all I know is that there has been problem from day one. Depends on how you handle your issue. But now you came up to as a computer child to tell me that you should have any problem that comes out, I handle it the way I see it. If you know that if you want to be me, I am not depressed. You said that you are
Yeah. Yeah, so like what's your take on a video like that, right? Because what she's saying, like, it's worked for them and they made it. Some of our parents will not be where they are if they stopped to do I'm depressed. They were pushing, they had a vision, they were focusing. So is this thing like, is it that our generation we are just babies or like I don't know.
I can speak to that, and I will start from us first. This is not in any way to minimize the conversation, but one of the things we are increasingly saying is overgeneralization. So when you say you are depressed, who told you are depressed? Who diagnosed that depression? So you would see any little thing, no, don't talk to me like that's my mental health. I'm like, if you don't know nothing, you can't diagnose yourself. And how well informed are you to be able to identify that what I'm having or what I'm going through is not laziness, but it's depression, or it's just that I'm sad. Sometimes it's not happiness, it's sadness momentarily. Depression has to consistently have been going on for 2 weeks, but for you to be diagnosed as being clinically depressed. Those are more experts who might be able to correct me, but I know that at least 2 weeks of consistent, So again, some of us are beginning to overgeneralize. Any little thing, I'm depressed.
Yes, I think
I have
so.
OCD. Do you know what OCD is? Just different. Or we even name call and say that person is bipolar. Do you have an idea of a maniac episode? So I think that when our parents are saying, what are you saying? We need to know what we are saying so that we're not saying the wrong thing.
That's true.
And we do not make mental illness a cool thing. It's actually illness for real, right? So we need to be in that place where we get educated enough to know that, okay, it's not, you won't go outside and say, I have cancer to be cool, right?
Yeah.
So let's educate ourselves. Let's know very well that, okay, this is what this is. Not minimize this, but also not overgeneralize what is not, right? And on the part of our parents, we say that they were resilient, they've done things, but have they done things, have they lived? Because for one of the things that I'm very passionate about is the quality of life that you live. So yes, they've made money. Money is good, is great, but what's the quality of life that they've lived leading up to that? What's their mental state like? Were they at peace all through those years? Were there other things they would have loved to do? Were there other fulfillments that they could not, things that they could not fulfill? Yeah. So they've done well. But we are in a generation where we want to do well beyond just the metrics of I have houses, I have money. We want to live an abundance of life, right? Yeah. So, kudos to them. Yeah. And I think that kudos to us for daring also to say we want to live a full life, put words to the emotions that we are feeling, take a pause to deal and move on, right? Yeah. And so... yeah,
I love that. The conversation is not going in the direction of this way is the old way is bad, this way is the new way is good. No, I love that there's a balance. Like, you need to actually be conscious of the fact that there's a balance. You don't just stand up and say mental health, like, you need to actually understand it. And if you do understand it and you are going through it, have the courage enough to seek help and don't degrade, like, no, me dear, like, we move, like, So I love that you've emphasized on that balance, and I think it's amazing because I wasn't expecting the conversation to go in that direction. So with that, I think we've answered 2 questions in one with that brief conversation.
Sorry, I'm talking
I like Shalaye. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. So it says, besides going to see a psychologist or mental health expert, as we all know, it might be difficult for most of us to even accept that we have a problem, let alone go and see a medical doctor for help. So besides that, what are some tips you would give to someone who might be having some issues such as depression, negative thoughts, fear of failure, those common things that you wouldn't want to go and sit in front of someone and say, I have fear of failure. Like, what are some other tips besides like directly going to like a medical professional? Yeah. Edith, you can start.
So I know we had like the Nigerian Association. Yeah, we had a small discussion about something related to this. And I know one of the things we talked about was like having a support system. Like wherever you are, like sometimes you can't go and like meet, I don't know, your professor or something, but having a friend that you can talk to and like knowing the friend is balanced and like what they're saying, because some people, if you go and talk to them, like, I don't know, your situation can get worse. So just having like a very good support system, I know that like really helps, like having someone to talk to. Honestly, sometimes takes like a lot of the burden out of your shoulders.
That's great.
So one of the things I would say for like even beyond us here, one of the things we would see is we don't even have enough mental health practitioners back home. In Nigeria, the stats may not be right, but I think we have like 0.01 mental health practitioners to 100,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah. So even if the person was to see 1,000 people every day, it would take another how many days before it gets through everybody. So that's not practical. So already we do not have the human resources. We have only 8 federal neuropsychiatric wards in Nigeria. I can speak to Nigeria better. I know that in the whole of Ivory Coast, I think that there's just one neuropsychiatric hospital. They are private ones, but owned by the government. And mental health help is expensive. It's very expensive. I know that there was a time I was talking to somebody who was charging about over almost $200 for a 1-hour session back in Nigeria, not here. And that is where the minimum wage is $50 per month. So that's literally using 2 months' salary for 1-hour session. And that's not practical, right? So now that we've established that we do not have resources in that sense, I think that support system is great. And one of the things I've also been on a personal note thinking about, and I'm sure a lot of mental health practitioners are also in that space, is how do we do mental health CPR? You know, the way we have first aid for quick fixes, we need to have first aid for mental illnesses too. So how do I know that when daddy is sleeping all day on the table as a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old child in the house, it could be that this man is going through some mood disorders. How do I know that when mom is cranky, mommy still loves us? How do I know as a parent to recognize when my child is misbehaving, that it might not be because they are just, indisciplined, or they're trying to rebel? It could be that they might have issues. So I think that practitioners and those of us that are generally interested in mental health advocacy, we need to start to think of how we develop first aids for people to first and foremost recognize when a situation could be a mental health situation. So when we then do that, how can we support without not necessarily maybe administering therapy because we are not trained to, but what can we do to make their lives better? How can we support them? Can we encourage them to go get treatment? So I believe strongly in the Ubuntu philosophy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ubuntu philosophy. Yes, that I think it's an East African philosophy that together, we can do a lot. We should cover each other together. So I think that it should be a holistic thing where every single member of the family is constantly, taught to recognize when there's mental health issues, to find practical ways where they can support members of their family. And then when it deteriorates into something really, more intense than just a mood disorder or an anxiety disorder, or then we can seek, constructive treatment that way and say, okay, this is no longer a mood disorder. This is no longer an anxiety issue. This is no longer even trauma that can still be lived with every day. This is leading to psychosis and something more serious. So let's find help. So
yeah, that's beautiful because.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something. Like, I think another way I have not really thought about this just now that you were talking. Especially when you brought up the Ubuntu.
yes.
Yeah, I know the religious. We are very religious in Africa, most of Africa. So if there's a way to also incorporate that into the churches, the mosque, I feel like if you have a person in a religious place of power, speak on it, people will be more open to it, especially.
Yeah. I had this question saved for the ending, but since you brought it up, I want to say, so like you said, we are more okay, now my mind is I want to say something. So okay, first of all, let me comment on what you said. I love the fact that you said CPR, quick fixes, especially for every family, because it can be unique to every family. So it can't be a general thing. Oh, these are the 5 steps to I think every family has different personalities. So if as a family you decide, okay, this is mom's temperament, this is dad's temperament, you are actually interested in the well-being. I think that's just perfect, because if every family is doing that, because the country is made up of different families.
Sure.
So if every family is doing that effectively, it's the country that's doing that, and every country is doing that, and the whole world is doing that. So I think it starts from the family. So I think that was a great point. And moving on to your point as well, like you said, Africa is very religious, right? And it would be great if, we will listen when it comes from the church. But then I also feel like the church is also on the stance of do not profess those things into your life. God heals everything. God heals depression. God heals So then, how would that gel with God heals you, but you go and see this doctor? What's your take on that? In effect, that's the summary. What was your take on that?
You started let's go there.
I think they're I know they're medical professionals that are also very active in religious roles. I think those would be the best people to speak on it, because it's like she said earlier in the beginning, mental health is almost like physical health, right? If you're sick, if someone has cancer, you won't say, oh, some people do, but most people will pray for you, but also seek help in the hospital.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think especially if you're a medical professional in the mental health section and you're like, you have like a voice in the religious section, I think that should be important. Like we should like be in the forefront of like talking about this.
Absolutely. I'm a Christian, and I would say that I don't want to get into theology or anything. But I know very well that God is a healer. It's Jehovah Rapha. That's one of the names that we call God, right? So we believe in divine healing, right? We also believe in healing through the hands of medical practitioners. When you use a medication for a physical ailment, it's not that medication, at least according to our faith, that totally heals you, right? It's the wisdom that God has given people that have developed that medication, the people that have administered it to you. And, we also believe that medication plus God working through us. People have taken that same medication and whatnot. So in that same vein, when we will not just say, let's not confess that I don't have cancer. The person has cancer, right? But the person is saying, by his stripes, I am healed. The person has depression. By the stripes, the person is healed, but the person will go take medications and do cognitive behavior therapy when it's needed to get healed. Because it is not the therapy alone that heals, right? It's God that heals. But it's not wise to say, I'm healed and I stay. Because if the person has cancer and say, I'm healed and I stay, the person is not working out their faith to obtain healing. So I think that there's a balance between knowing that God heals, but it requires our faith to work out that healing. There's a book I want to start reading over the summer. Christians get depressed too. I haven't started reading it. I wish I had read it before coming to this conversation. And it's just what it is. When you need help, you get help. If you need medication, if you're tired, if you have a headache, you take pain relievers, right? So if one is feeling depressed, get help and say, by the special grace of God, this therapist will speak the mind of God for you. He will give you the treatments that I require.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a while. Because I know when I post this, there are
devil's advocate in Jesus' name.
Oh, in Jesus' name. I know when I post this, there are going to be some people who will be like, well, maybe they had cancer, they had this problem, and they prayed and they were healed. They didn't need like taking the medicine is doubting like, there have been people who maybe upon laying of hands or upon prayer or something, they get healed instantly, right? So, and I believe everyone's belief is backed by their experiences, right? So for someone, that is how God worked with them, right? So then what's your take on that? Like telling the person that, so someone like that going through depression and you can see that this thing is deteriorating to something else. And the person's like, what's your take on that?
My take is simple. In the Bible, when we go back to the Bible, was there one simple way where Jesus healed people? Jairus' daughter was sent a word. Some people were asked to jump. The paralyzed man by the pool was told to jump into the blood. There was one that used clay on his hand. The little girl that was asleep was raised.
Someone touched his hem of his garment.
Someone touched the hem of his garments. Right?
Yeah.
So it says if you can have faith like that of a mustard seed, yes, your faith will make you whole. That's your faith, hold on to it. But it doesn't make me faithless if I decide that, God, I am holding on to the fact that I'm healed of this anxiety, I'm healed of this depression, I'm healed of this situation, right? And as I'm going to seek help, I am getting help. I am delivered, right? So also the person that sits and says, God heal me, I'm going on my knees to pray and I want you good if the person gets healed. The faith of the person has made the person whole. Praise the Lord. I'm not even being cynical or anything. So that's great. But it should not, replace the fact that it's also faith. However little it might seem to those people that believe in instant healing through not getting help, right? It's also faith. And all that I need is that small faith.
Yeah, because you can also use the medicine and it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's true.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh wow, I love this. Okay, so we'll end soon. What are some general tips we can practice, maybe daily, weekly, to ensure we are consciously taking care of ourselves mentally? Because I went for some, I don't know if it's a conference or something. They spoke about breathing exercises like daily. What are some of those general daily, weekly things that we can incorporate into our lifestyle that become like a habit, just to make sure that we are consciously taking care of ourselves mentally?
I'll say, for me, one of the most important things is rest. Like, there was a time I was feeling very sad, and then I spoke to my parent, and I was like, "You've not rested in like in a week. Why don't you just try and sleep for 8 hours?" And I woke up feeling like a brand new person. And sometimes that like goes a lot. Also, like, eating as well as you can helps. Movements, all those small things that you like, it's not that deep, like actually accumulates and helps. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I totally agree. You would never catch me not sleeping. I don't care what it is. I'm a PhD student, but I'm gonna sleep. I'm sorry. I always joke with people and say I want to remember things when I'm in my 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
I don't want to, the hustle culture makes you not want to do, rest. So yeah, I second everything you said. Rest. Yeah. And I think that one other thing I personally do is I break away from my routine, which is one of the reasons I'm here. So, if you have a routine, sometimes you don't see beyond that. Break away from it. Do something unconventional. This is super cool. So break away from, that every morning. A lot of us back home, I remember when I used to walk back home, 2.5, 3 hours of traffic in the morning, in the evening, same hours of traffic. You sit at your desk, do something, different, right? And I think that is also very important for me to say that a way of also taking care of yourself is stop comparing yourself and your journey to other people's lives. Especially in this our age of social media. Oh, my friends are looking like they're doing things that I am not doing. So they are traveling, they are doing this, and then you're there, constantly comparing yourself. Stop it. Stop it.
Okay, so I love both of your inputs. With regards to mental health in Africa, I want to ask, what is the ideal picture you would love to see manifest regarding Africa and mental health awareness?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Like, what is the, because we've spoken throughout the whole, I feel like throughout the whole session, we've identified gaps. That's what we've been doing, identifying gaps. So what is the ideal picture you would love to see regarding Africa and mental health awareness? Yeah.
I think I should.
That's fine. So this is comfort zone for me because I've been doing research on this for the past, number of years. This has been my space for a while. So one of the things that I will speak specifically to Nigeria, if that's okay. I want to believe a lot of these countries are not perfect. So currently, right now, attempted suicide is a criminal issue in Nigeria. Just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the mental health bill that we have, the lunacy bill that we have from the 1990s, was only just changed about 6 weeks ago in January of this year. So, and it was called lunacy. It's been changed now to mental health, act and all of that. But it took a lot of advocacy, a lot of lobbying. So great. Let us as a country, and by extension other African countries that are practicing this, stop criminalizing attempted suicide. People that resort into attempting to,
kill themselves,
to take their lives, it's warped. It's something more than just, So first, let's make that they need support. They don't need to be thrown into jail. So let's take that away first. And again, in terms of education, one of the things that I am, personally doing, and you are doing too, in starting this conversation, right? We also need to have resources that are tailored to our own client.
Sure.
The thing that stresses us, stresses our mind, are different from that of the global West. So it's different. There's a constant pressure of, your age mates are doing this, you're not doing this.
Pressure
Also
from the aunties to
pressure from the aunties to get married, girl. So let's go to the roots of the things. Identify the things that cause, this stressors for us. So yes, take away the symptoms, but also go to the root cause and take away how can we start to put systems that take away the root cause. So whether it's that auntie educating her that stop pressuring her, whether it's that parent that you must be a lawyer, doctor, whatever, tell them it's okay to be a podcaster. People are making millions from it. Leave them, let them do what they want to do. Let them dance. Yes, treat the symptoms, get, help in terms of, whether it's hospitals, more practitioners, but also go to the root cause and educate people on how this can impact our lives. It's a complex thing, especially in a country that we don't, in countries that we don't have good enough infrastructures that would ultimately impact the quality of living for people. So it's multi-layered, but let's just keep talking, going to the root cause, helping with the symptoms of the issues and all of that. Yeah. And finally, this thing of a boy must not cry. It needs to stop.
It's actually good.
I actually planning having a podcast session that talks about male vulnerability.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's something that we need to talk about, like in Africa generally, like a guy cannot show weakness and then they grow up with it, tough skin. Yeah. What about you? What would you love to see?
Oh, yes. Everything. Yeah, whatever I will say, I'll just be echoing her. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Then I'll just move on to the last question. I've been saying last question for like 2 questions now. Okay, so this is actually the last question because are there any last words, advice, recommendations you would like to give to our audience or anyone out there who is struggling with something, whether related to mental health or not? Any advice you would, if given a chance, you'd like to give to any youth, girl, boy out there?
In the spirit of vulnerability, let's use our own lived experience.
Okay.
You start. You start.
Yeah.
I would say, like, I don't know. For me, it's like the whole like having supports as much as possible, and if the support doesn't have to be physically next to you. Honestly, it could be someone that you call. It could be the person could be miles and miles away that you call to talk to. I think that's very important. I think the churches and the mosques should be more open to it. I don't know. I'm not sure if they will watch this, but like I'm hoping that like people get more open to this. They should not feel ashamed of it. I know another reason why people feel ashamed is because they see mental health as like, oh, you're mad or something. It's like it's not that, honestly, and it doesn't make you weak. You should not equate being like mentally ill to being weak at all. And I also say like for people that are like very passionate about mental health, it might seem like it's like very slow in Africa, but eventually with time, like a few years from now, you'll look back and realize like actually we've actually made a lot of progress.
You can actually be the pioneer for that. Yeah.
I cannot think of any personal thing right now that you can share. What if I do think about it?
Maybe I'll bounce us. One of the things that I think on a personal level one can do, even without at an interpersonal level, you yourself, intrapersonal level, you yourself and I, the way we say it, let go of those. By the time I'm 25, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Those milestone label things, they stress us out beyond more than we can think, right? I think that it's good to have lofty goals, but I think in all of that, the most important thing, at least to me, would be to have lived a very full, happy, fulfilled life. That's not to say unhappiness is bad. Sadness every now and then is helpful, right? It's part of the dynamics of being human. But first, let go of that. I have to be, by the time I'm 25, by the time I'm 30, by the time, because as soon as those ages are, coming closer and you're not eating those milestones, you start to put yourself under pressure. I think that for me it was a significant pressure for me. I had my life planned. By the time I'm this, I must be this. And the moment I started to let go, I have not been happier. I've been so childlike, so happy, free-spirited, playful, knowing that every good thing would come. Things take time and shape. And for all of the affordances I've been given from my family, from everything, I am not doing badly for my journey. And that's okay, really. So let's, on a personal level, let go of. That's not to say don't be ambitious. It's a fine balance of still exciting yourself, but don't put yourself under the pressure of, X, Y, Z. This must happen. If it doesn't happen, then your world comes crashing. You can pick yourself back up. So I think that on a very personal level, that's helpful.
Yeah, I think that's something we can all relate to and take something away from.
Sorry. Me, I'm not a planner, right? But I have people in my life that plan my life for me. Like, by 26, you must be bringing the mans you want. And honestly, if it's to have a stern conversation, like a very serious conversation with them, like even if they're a parent, like, okay, I know you're coming from a place of love, but don't pressure me, please. It's not. So I think because sometimes it doesn't come from you putting the pressure on yourself, it can come from someone that actually loves you putting pressure on you. So
that's beautiful. I've been planning my life since I was so and if you're a Christian, right, just let go of the reins of your life to God.
Exactly. That's true. And we've ended, but then I'll just end with the fact that there's some peace that comes with letting go, especially if you are letting go to God, because then ultimately he sees the future, past, present. So obviously if you leave it to him, it's not going to turn out bad. It's going to turn out the best possible version of what it could have turned out to be. So that's what I'll end with. There's just some peace that comes with it. So thank you very much for joining us today. We are very grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.